Welcome back to the Bryan Devore Connection. I'm your host, Bryan Devore. Successful aging. It's on everyone's mind. Of course, we all want to age successfully. So what are the solutions for successful aging? We thought we'd bring my friend Brenda-Lee Smith on to talk about that. Brenda-Lee Smith is the owner of Oasis Senior Advisors San Diego. Brenda-Lee, how are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you, Bryan. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I have a passion for working with seniors, and I love to be able to talk about what they can do to make their life more successful as they age.
Absolutely. So you and I have known each other for a few years now. We've worked together helping seniors. It can be a challenge. There can be a lot to it. So having a guide take them down the road is certainly helpful, and that's what you do so well for your clients.
Yeah, I appreciate every individual senior as I work with them because their stories are so amazing. They have so much to share, and being able to work with somebody and help them see what they can do to optimize their quality of life. Our needs change as we age, and being able to identify what those needs are and then what your options are to be able to meet those needs to have more joy at the end of your life is just a wonderful opportunity to work with them to do that.
Absolutely. Now, unfortunately, we don't, as a society, talk about these things. We don't talk about successful aging. We want to age successfully, but we don't talk about aging in general, let alone what it takes to do that. Why don't we?
I think there's several reasons. When I've been working with the families that I work with, there's several common themes that come out when we're working together. A lot of it is fear. I think parents have fear, children have fear. They don't know what they're going to be, what's coming, and so they avoid it because they don't know what's coming. They feel guilty. Children feel guilty because maybe some of the options are not options they think that their parents want. They feel guilty about maybe betraying a promise. If a parent has maybe started to have some cognitive issues, the children feel guilty because they made a promise when the situation was different. Now the situation's changed, but they still felt beholden to that previous environment. Maybe they're waiting for a sign from their parents or a sign that the need is really there. They can have things like they're afraid their parents won't be happy with them, won't be happy with the choices that they're making, or they're waiting for the parents to make the decision for themselves, right? And the parents aren't going to make decisions about their change in needs sometimes.
And this is why it's so important to be proactive, and so many families aren't proactive in planning, their wills and trusts, where they're going to live, how they're going to age, where they're going to age, etc. You typically come in a crisis situation or at a time when maybe clear heads aren't present, and so it makes it very difficult. That's when all the emotions of the guilt and everything come in versus planning ahead.
That's right. Yeah, and having that, having someone call me and they're in a state of crisis, then it becomes more challenging to build that plan because emotions are high. It's nice when the opportunity arises that we can talk about things prior to the crisis time, and maybe we can even prevent some of those crises by being proactive about the event.
Right. Now, you're a placement professional,
Yes.
and so primarily your job is to help seniors and their families find appropriate senior living situations, but you provide a variety of resources for seniors, even if they're not moving to a community, to introduce them to the resources that they need. When it comes to senior living communities, a lot of seniors are hesitant to do so, and their families are hesitant to suggest it or even make that transition happen. What are seniors' concerns about that?
Well, I think the number one reason that seniors are concerned is they have this old image from their childhood of what senior living was, and they picture this old nursing home where seniors were sitting in a chair, unattended, staring at a wall. And that is just not what senior living is anymore. They're active, vibrant, senior lifestyle communities, more like a cruise ship on land in many senses. So that would be, I think, the number one reason. They fear a loss of independence. They're afraid that when they move, they're going to be losing their independence. Maybe they have fear that they don't have enough funds, that financially it's not going to be successful for them. They don't really know what the costs are. They don't know the costs of staying home with care versus the costs of moving into a senior living community. and that comparative costs, and fear of abandonment. If they move into that community, is their family just going to leave, right? And now they're alone and abandoned in a community where they don't know anybody, and isolation and things like that.
So these are issues that seniors really should be having with their adult children earlier in the process when they have the cognitive awareness. We always recommend seniors move into communities when they can be independent and enjoy all the benefits of it. The financial aspect is important, obviously, so doing that proper planning and understanding those things. But what's great about working with someone like you is you can show them all the different things they need to consider, where the money might be able to come from, different financial options for them, and explaining, in my opinion as well, you don't lose your independence, you actually gain your independence. You're no longer having to take care of your home, do your own laundry, prepare your own meals. Those all are being done for you. It's not for everyone, but then you can explain, how it all works to them.
Yes, and being able to sit down with them and say, okay, let's sit down and really weigh what the pros and cons are and what your options are, and compare them to each other. Compare the option of aging in place in your own home, a traditional family home, versus moving to a senior living community where you still have your home. It's just a different environment. One of the things I often will talk to seniors about is that why do we think that when we retire, that's it, and we never move again? We've moved throughout our lives. Most of us have moved throughout our lives. We don't live in this home we did as a child or as a young adult, or maybe when we started our profession or raised our families. But now all of a sudden we think when we retire, that's it, and we're never going to move again. Our home is supposed to be an environment that meets our needs. Sometimes the traditional family home can be adjusted and modified to make that work, and other times it cannot. Or even just from a financial perspective, it may be that it gets to the point where we need so much help at home that the cost becomes higher to stay home than it is to live in a senior living community. Most of our needs can be met at home. The biggest problem, or one that I find can become a challenge, is socialization. Because once we aren't able to drive and to get ourselves out to activities, or over the past 2 years when we've been isolating, we've lost that ability to reach out or to get out to enjoy socialization. And poor socialization can be one of the leading factors in poor seniors' health. In fact, I believe there was a recent article I read where they were saying that lack of socialization and social isolation is as much of a risk to seniors' health as smoking.
I think I read that. It's like worse than smoking like a pack a day or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to think about. Well, and when people talk about losing their independence, they're afraid of losing independence if they move to a community. If you can't drive, what independence do you have? You're relying on, other resources to come to you for everything you need, and then the interacting with other people doesn't happen, and people are just sitting there. So, tell us what it is. Lay it out for us as far as how you would help some seniors who you work with go down this road.
Okay, so one of the things that I think is really important is that we don't go in to meet a client with a preconceived notion of what their need is, because we want to come in and hear and listen to what the senior has to say, to what their family has to say, to help them identify what are the needs that you have, where are the gaps that you have in your life that prevent you from having the best quality of life that you can. Once we identify what those needs are, then we sit with them and we come up with a list of options and resources to meet those needs. Senior living, which is what we provide from independent all the way through to memory care, is one option that they have. It may be aging in place in their traditional home with home modifications and home care or transportation services, nutrition, or it may be moving to an independent living area where they have those kind of instrumental activities of daily living like meals and transportation and housekeeping, but they do their own personal care. Maybe they move there for now and we can augment the care needs. So it's really individual as to what each person needs. We start with that needs assessment, we come up with the options, list of resources and options, and then from there we sit with them and we weigh the pros and cons together with them. Look from a financial perspective, from an independence perspective, from what their preferences are, and we talk about those. I think education for our seniors is the #1 thing that they need to have to be able to make good decisions. And to help them make those decisions, my goal is to educate them about what their options are and then to help them through that process. If they decide senior living is the right thing, then I will sit with them. We will come up with what are your needs in a senior living community, and then I will provide them with 3 or 4 top options to meet those needs specifically. Every community, even if it's wonderful, is not created equal and doesn't meet the same needs.
Right. There's obviously a lot that goes into this, and this is just the tip of the iceberg of what seniors need, the education they need, and the help you can provide. So your information is on screen, and so people will be able to contact you by phone, by email, etc. Brenda-Lee Smith, thank you so much for sharing your information and providing these resources for our seniors and their families.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to meet with you.
You too.